So what is the red pill, really? You might have heard the term being thrown out in the public already, but you might have no idea what it means. If you are watching this, you probably do, but in case you don't, let me explain it to you. I made a video on being yourself, you should check it out to get the basics. In it, I explain that we have been conditioned to conform to the society's norms, to avoid standing out, so that we can fit into the social fabric which is incompatible with individuality. I explain that this behavior is perfectly natural and it exists in most species to prevent predators picking up those individuals that stand out of the herd, but that it also allows us to connect with other members of our species, so we can form bonds and social hierarchies. I have also explained how that is detrimental to one's happiness in the world we live in today, since we no longer live in the jungle as a primitive animal or in a tribal environment. And that in order to find happiness in the world today, one has to start being oneself and forego the social programming. What does one's individuality have to do with the red pill, you ask? To put it in the simplest terms, taking the red pill, or being red-pilled, simply means that you start thinking for yourself. You will adopt the direct learning approach over social learning. In other words, you will believe only when you see with your own eyes. That is what red pill is about at its core. Once you swallow the imaginary pill, you will start to realize that most of what you have been taught and told by your own family, friends and the society in general, was mostly lies. It was the social programming whose purpose was to mold you into a faceless member of the society that can fit in and become invisible to the outside world. You were supposed to become yet another member of the herd. Another drop in the ocean. And the herd must be uniform, it cannot be colorful, fuzzy and with sharp edges. It must be as anonymous and as uniform as possible. Again, this goes back to the biology and survival, but that no longer applies to the humankind in this technologically advanced era that we live in today. We're past that. It may sound a bit mystical, but it really isn't. Practically, all that it means is that you stop believing everything you have been told. It does not matter who it is, you just have to verify on your own and come to your own conclusion based on your own observation. This is a long process though. It takes time to adjust to having to do the heavy lifting by yourself. So don't expect some sudden changes in your life. Changes will come, but it will be a slow process and over long time. The longest part of this process is unlearning what you know. Or supposedly know. You will experience the paradox where what you know will be colliding with the reality you are observing. The knowledge you have is what forms your own personality. So unlearning things is really hard. And I really do mean it. You will be slowly transforming yourself and might become quite a different person because the values that were instilled into you and that are the base of your entire personality will be shaken to the core and will collapse one way or another. And you will have to rebuild yourself, your own personality. You may experience depression and feelings of being lost. That is perfectly normal because you no longer understand the world you live in. What was up is now down and what was blue is now red. This period will take years, so be prepared for it. You will experience an emotional roller coaster. You will be angry, sad, desperate, lost, depressed, excited, and a spectrum of other emotions. But once you rebuild the core of your own personality, the deepest values you hold and upon which your personality is built, you will start feeling at ease and you will be able to move on and to grow. Because your values are deeply molded into your own personality, they have very strong emotional attachments. Ripping them out will be tough. It will be like going through a drug addiction withdrawal. But this won't take just a week. This will be a process that will be repeating itself over and over throughout months and years. When you are through, then suddenly another collision with the reality comes in and you go through it again. And each adjustment will take about a month to finally settle in. Personally, I can consider myself lucky because I have been always this way. As with everything, it goes back to my childhood. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. I have never put trust into my parents, and so when I had no tribe that had my back, so to speak, I had to become a self-sufficient entity, an individual. I had to build thick walls to face the outside world, and I had to become self-reliant and decide what to let within on my own. Naturally, I have never trusted anyone inherently, and I always made my own conclusions based on my own observations. It was simply natural to me. So I never had to go through this pain of having to rebuild myself, on the deepest level. And so, inherently, I was always an individualist and I never respected any authority that wasn't earned. I never gave my respect to anyone that haven't earned it. I talked about respect in the aforementioned video as well. But even with getting here naturally, I still, to this day, discover stuff that is false social programming and I have to unlearn it. It's not painful, like I have mentioned, but it still takes me by surprise, to be honest. This process of rebuilding yourself and having to discover who you truly are is a painful process that many just cannot handle. And it is understandable. Inherently you are throwing away yourself and now you are lost and have no idea who you are, what you want, where to go, what to do. You have no compass, no purpose, you know nothing. And that can be a scary place to be. This is the reason why so many purple pill people exist. They tasted the red pill, they got the glimpse of the world for what it is, but just like Cypher in the Matrix, they didn't like what they saw and they wanted to go back. It was scary, it required work and responsibility. They prefer to go back to what they know, to be comfortable in their own shoes. To exist in the known so they don't have to think too much. And this is the worst situation to find yourself in because once you know, you know. Once you've seen, you've seen. You can't just throw it away. It stays with you forever. And you will be battling with two opposing realities every single day. So in a sense, taking the red pill is dangerous to one's psyche and there is no taste sample. You are either all in or all out. You should think deeply about your current life situation and if you truly want to take this path. If you live comfortably and have no troubles in your life, you might be better off staying away from the red pill and just enjoying your time in the Matrix. There is nothing wrong with that. We are each individuals with different values and in a different situation, and what is good for one might be bad for another. It may sound interesting to you, from what I have described. But really, think about it before you decide. And I am not saying that being red-pilled is bad. On the contrary. You will experience freedom like you never had before. But you have to get there. You have to avoid the trap of the purple or the pink pill and you have to keep hammering at it until you rebuild yourself and become a true individual. Oneself. You have to see it through and reach the stage of true red pill. There is nothing in between, just chaos and hopelessness. You'd be lost, unable to grab to a thread of true reality anymore. Once you become this individual, in the truest sense of the word, you will be much happier than you were before because you'll make your own choices that you, yourself, have decided. No one else did it for you, like you were used to. It might be scary at the beginning because freedom and choices mean responsibility. Responsibility for yourself. You might have never experienced it, really. So it will be new to you, but you will adapt and it will be incredibly freeing. You will become a different person in relationships, in work and in life in general. You will do what benefits you, not others, the society, the machine. Just you. You will do what makes you happy and you will not sacrifice yourself for the pleasure of others. You will be in love with yourself. You will develop self-respect for yourself. You will feel valuable because you will value yourself. You won't be seeking validation from other people. The pat on the head. Those days are over. A new sheriff is in town and his name is you. Now that we have the red pill part out of the way, I will move on to MGTOW. MGTOW, or men going their own way, is often associated with being red pill. That is only partially true. Historically speaking, this philosophy, preceded by the Japanese herbivore men, probably originated from the failed men's rights movements and by the men that got divorced, raped and got fed up and angry with how the society and the law treats men and fathers these days. Along the way, MGTOW become attached to women. These divorcees, incels and failed pickup artists were so angry with women that they have decided, no more. They just quit women altogether. Some only promoted avoiding of cohabitation with a woman, others went further and promoted no relationships with women, others no sex with women, and the most bitter and angry ones simply quit the society altogether and went into the country and wilderness, and just keep to themselves. One way or another, MGTOW movement is deeply tied to women and hatred and distrust towards them in the gynocentric society we live in today. And I totally understand where they are coming from. I too felt the hatred towards women in the past. But now I understand the whole system so I can rise above that. But the fact is that MGTOW has nothing to do with women. Never did. I think this generic term was just hijacked, so to speak, by these men, and so it became synonymous with their worldview. What MGTOW actually means is what each individual decides. It is not a true movement or an organization. It is merely a philosophy, a worldview. So one's interpretation is what decides the meaning. Just like art. But the reason I am talking about MGTOW is simply because MGTOW is a synonym for the red pill. In its essence, people who subscribe to the MGTOW philosophy began to see the world for what it is. Maybe not entirely, but at least to some extent. The words, going your own way, are interpreted as quitting society, women, or simply just doing your own thing. One way or another, that is what thinking for yourself means, and that is what the red pill is about. It might be just scratching the surface, but it leads to the same outcome. It might take a bit more time if a MGTOW individual is not a deep thinker, but sooner or later, while he keeps walking his own path, he will mirror the path of the red pill. Maybe he will get there slower than purposely aiming towards the red pill, but he will get there nonetheless. Personally, I was always doing my own thing. Usually the opposite of what the society wanted. So the term MGTOW resonated with me on a deep level. But in the end, it is merely a small subset of the larger red pill philosophy. Similarly, one can look at the bad boys and the rebels in the past. Those people that fought the establishment, that wanted to stand out, that wanted to be individuals and be themselves, all of them were reaching out for the red pill without even knowing it. The term didn't exist back then, but the end goal was the same. Today, we have the benefit of knowledge and plenty of content creators out there that can teach and explain the path to anyone interested in walking it. We have progressed tremendously in this regard. As our society is presently in the midst of a collapse, due to female empowerment and lack of responsibility and order in the fabric that forms the society itself, we are seeing more and more men being red-pilled every single day. They might take various routes, like MGTOW, but again, they will end up on the same spot like the rest of us. It is only a matter of time. And the reason we are seeing this number grow so much is very simple. The society is biased against men, and biology, and values, and order, and responsibility. All traits that men naturally value and which advance the society to this day and age. Deep down, all men feel that all of this is wrong. It is in their biology. Their own survival instincts are kicking in. It does not require any thought to be put into it. This is nature itself signaling to us that this is wrong. And we know it. Every man knows it deep down. His masculinity is screaming at him that all of this is wrong. And one day, man after man, they take the path. They quit the society and the narrative and they aim towards the red pill and the truth, and being free of the fake and deranged social norms that are being perpetuated and posed on men, and people in general. All of this leads to the singularity that is the awakening of men, worldwide. It is no longer a trait of just a few individuals. Men rejecting the narrative is now a mainstream phenomenon that is spreading throughout the world like a flood of biblical proportions, and there is no stopping it. It will take time, but we are clearly seeing that the nature self-corrects this broken system by itself. Man after man is waking up and saying no to this nonsense. The future can be bright or dark. We cannot say where this will lead to. We are way too advanced to go back to the classical model of patriarchy. And I doubt we will do a hard correction and treat women like a property either. So the question of how a fixed society shall look like is a complicated topic for another video. But rest assured, we are getting better. Whether the collapse will be catastrophic or not is hard to guess. But big changes are coming. Female empowerment is simply a luxury provided by the good times, after all. So we will most likely see bad times before we'll get better. Either way, one has to take care of oneself first and foremost. We might not live to see the endgame here, but we should keep in mind that we matter right now, while we're still here. And that is all I wanted to say, for now. I am Spectre, and you have to decide if you want to see where the rabbit hole goes, or not.